All righty. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, June 8th, and this is Dr. King coming at you from 800 Link Community in Duncanville, Texas. Um, Before we get started, I first want to say congratulations to all the seniors who have been graduating and who will be graduating in the coming weeks. My daughter graduated last night. I am tired if you guys hear my voice. Apologize. My daughter graduated last night. I'm so very proud of her and her friends. And that is the topic of our discussion tonight, getting ready to go off to college. So, for those who have graduated and are getting ready to graduating or preparing to go off to college, this is the program for you today. And I also show you guys Rainbow Jenkins. That's what I call him. He was a stuffed animal I bought for my daughter years ago. But being that it is Pride Month, I just want to, Rainbow Jenkins, want to say hello to all of my friends who are in the community. I myself, I am not, but say hello to my friends, and everybody celebrating Pride Month this month. But I am so blessed this morning, y'all. I was tired, and the closer it got time to do my presentation, the more fun and the more upbeat I became. So that's just, you know, the man upstairs saying, hey, you got this. So today we are going to discuss getting ready to go off to college. Um, Being a parent of a daughter that's getting ready to go off to college, these topics are very important to me. So let's get started. I have a little bit to talk about, and I have about 30-45 minutes to do it. So let's get started with that. So when we start talking about our kids going off to college, what do we mean? First, we mean that they have to complete high school. Duh. They have to complete high school. They have to complete and satisfy the course credits that they are required to graduate. Every state, every district has their own, courses, amount of, credits, courses and credits that have to be earned to graduate high school. And then you have to have certain GPAs, depending on where you're trying to go, your grade point average, what you want to major in, your grade point average there's a minimum grade point average that must be attained before you can even apply to that university or even apply, to a particular program. Maybe you're not going to college, maybe you're going to a trade school, or maybe you're going, to, like a graphic design school, or something like that. You have to have a certain GPA, for a lot of those things. And then you have to make sure you take your state aptitude test. Here in Texas, we have what's called the Texas Success Initiative. We have the STAR test. Do not ask me what the STAAR means, because I could not tell you. And the name has changed over the years, but we have the STAR test. And those tests basically test the student's ability to read, write, and do math. And then the STAR test also has a history component, um, what is it, math, history, science, I think. I don't know what's on the STAR test. I forgot it. My baby just graduated. But those are the two major tests in the state of Texas that if you want to go off to college, STAR you have to take and pass to even graduate high school. But the TSI, which is that Texas Success Initiative, say that 3 times, you have to take that. And that's that's the basic test that says you're ready for collegiate coursework. But then you also have your SATs and your ACTs. Everybody takes those all over the country. But what we have also found is a test called the ALEX. Don't know what ALEX means. ALEKS. It's an acronym. People just call it ALEX. But ALEX has different types of tests. But the main one that you will pretty much see on every campus or college, just about everybody. There are a few that have their own, but they're all some type of a ALEX test. The ALEX math test. It measures pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, and geometry. And those are basically the 4 levels of math that you're going to see on basically every high school campus. You'll also see maybe trigonometry, calculus, and then there's a life skills math class that a lot of high schools are starting to offer now. And that was actually pretty cool. I had a friend whose daughter took that this year. But the ALEX test, especially if you're going to major in some type of science like biology, chemistry, pre-med, those types of things, computer science, those type of things, you have to take the ALEX test. For most, like I said, most colleges and universities require the ALEX test. There are some junior colleges that require the ALEX test. And it basically is a 2-hour test, and it starts you out with very easy problems. And as you get the problems correct, it advances to harder problems. And if you miss a problem, it'll drop you back down to the level problem before the problem you missed. So it kind of it goes on you. Everybody is not getting the same questions and things like that. But Alex gives you a score, and the score determines what math class. Excuse me, y'all. I was yelling last night. My voice is a little raspy. The Alex test determines what math class that you actually will be able to take your incoming freshman year in college. So make sure, as you're going through getting your child ready for college, or you getting yourself ready for college, that you check your university's website and see if you have to take, or your child has to take, the ALEKS test. It's ALEKS. And if you don't see it, or if you don't know where to find it, every college university has a search box. In the search box, put ALEKS, ALEKS, or ALEKS test, or ALEKS math, or something like that, and hit the search button. And if it comes up on the university website, there is some form of the ALEKS test that they're giving. Like there's an ALEKS test for foreign language majors. I think there's an ALEKS test for art majors. It's something like that, but there's more than one ALEKS test. But the main one that you will pretty much see everywhere is the ALEKS math test. And so check for that. And then let me see, I'm going down my list trying to make sure I don't miss any things. And so we have coursework credits, GPA, state aptitude test, college entrance exams. That's your ACT and ACT. And oh, and make sure that, because I'm doing it by level, so we're at the high school level. What do you do either right before you graduate or right after you graduate? You also have to order your final transcript and have it sent to the university. When you applied for college, you had your primary transcript that you sent, and most often you sent the transcript from your freshman through junior years. Well, once you finish high school, you have to submit a final transcript. And for some, this is where they tend to run into problems, because the kids don't realize that you have to keep, just because you get accepted into college does not mean that you can slack your senior year. And kids are applying for scholarships and earning scholarships, and all of these things, but some lose their scholarships and some lose their admission status to colleges, because they start to trip in the spring semester or even in the fall semester, because they feel like they've gotten accepted. Now they don't have to work as hard, so their GPA may drop or raise. Let's talk about GPAs for a quick second. GPAs, you want them to get as high as 4.0, or there are some districts and some schools that go up to 5.0. Your class rank, you want to drop as close to 1, if not 1, as possible. So your GPA, you want to raise. Your class rank, you want to drop. So when I'm talking about this, that's what I mean. So some kids will, they'll get accepted into college, get their athletic scholarships, get their academic scholarships, and then they start tripping, and schools will rescind their admissions to you. They will send you a letter and say, hey, we've looked at your final transcript, and basically you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. So when you start your senior year, do not slack. Don't take the opportunity to go home early. I know, say you've taken enough classes and you only need like a couple of classes your senior year, and things like that. Some kids, they have work, they can go to work, go to class half the day, go to work the other half, things like that. Check with your counselor before you take the option of foregoing additional coursework and leaving school early. You may have enough credits to graduate. However, you may end up causing your class rank to raise, and that will knock you out. Class ranks, depending on how many people are in your class, they're top 10%, top 20%, top 25%, stuff like that. So make sure and check with your counselor or your child's counselor that before they opt to, like, say they only have 2 classes they need to take their whole senior year, and they're, they got 7 classes total, so they only take 2. Now they can be out for the rest of the day and don't have to take any other 5 classes. Be careful with that, because for the kids that are on campus all day, guess what happens? They are getting the grades. Those grades are going to factor into their GPA. That GPA is going to factor into that rank. If your child is not taking those classes, their GPA is going to raise. Their GPA is going to drop, and their class rank is going to raise. And now they're knocking themselves out of the area that they were as far as percentile trying to, when they got into college. So say your child was in the top 10%, she only had 2 classes she needed to take, or he only had 2 classes he needed to take. And so they opted not to take 5 or 6 more classes, depending on whether it's 7 or 8. And they, get their final transcript, and now they go from being in the top 10% to the top 25%, and their class rank is risen, maybe 100 spots. That's because those 5 classes or 6 classes that they were not in school where other students were, they were missing out on gaining those points that are used to calculate their GPA, which is then used to determine their class rank. So be careful with that. Now let's move on to college entrance exams. We've talked about the SAT. We've talked about the ACT. Everybody knows about those. I know for the class of 2021, and for some, the class of 2022 and 2023, they have foregone using the SAT and ACTs as requirements to apply for schools. Some schools have completely done away with having to submit the SAT or ACT at all. But once again, there are also state required standardized tests that a lot of states have. In Texas, we have the Texas Success Initiative, TSI for short. And we also have the STAR test. TSI, basically you'll take that. I suggest your junior and senior years, because it tests your reading and writing, and then it tests your math. And it basically states, the score determines whether or not you are ready for the rigors of collegiate coursework. And then the STAR test is taken, there's 1 or 2 tests taken every year. In Texas, the STAR test normally starts in elementary school, because you have to pass the STAR test to also progress to the, and promote to the next grade level. Well, in high school, the STAR test also determines whether or not you graduate. You have to do your regular coursework, get your regular credits, pass the STAR. You don't pass the STAR, you keep coming back and retaking it till you pass whichever subject test that you failed. So Texas, we have the TSI test and we have the STAR test. STAR test is required to graduate, and they'll take one every year of high school. They don't wait till like their senior year and try to give them all the tests. They take 1 or 2 their freshman year, 1 or 2 their sophomore year. Then I think there's 1 their junior year. And then if they pass all of those, they don't have to take any at all their senior year. The only time you'll take a STAR test, or your child will take a STAR test their senior year, is if they did not meet the minimum threshold score for one of the subject tests, either their 9th through 11th grade years. And so when we're talking about college entrance exam, there are also, remember when I said Alex also has a foreign language test component to it? There are some schools that, depending on what you're majoring in, there are placement exams that have to be taken to determine whether or not you can actually major in that class and start certain classes. You may can declare the major, but you may not be able to enroll in certain classes. So like at UT Dallas, where my daughter is going, they make them take the Alex math test, and she needs to take calculus. And so they had to score a certain amount of points, or gain a certain score, to be able to enroll into calculus as a freshman. And for some, they don't. They have to take, and the point with the Alex test is may add some math classes, or it'll keep you where you need to be and you don't have any extra classes. And for those that do not attain the score that they need to enroll in the class that they need, for example, if my daughter didn't earn the score that she needed to be able to enroll in calculus this fall, she would have had to take add maybe 1 or 2 additional math classes on that she would have had to take and successfully pass before enrolling in calculus. Well, guess what that does? It adds classes on to your course load, which means that's more tuition. Okay. So, and make sure that you study for those tests. Don't try to wing them. Some kids can do that, but at the end of the day, there are some people that can do everything. The average child needs to study for a test. And so these tests are important. They determine what classes, whether or not you can actually get into college, and what classes you can take while you're there. So don't just say, hey, get up one day and I'm just going to wing this test and I'm going to do just fine. Don't do that. Study for these tests. Next thing, apply for housing. You've gotten accepted at college. There are some colleges where freshmen are required to stay on campus their freshman year, because they have to get acclimated to not being at home with mom and not being at home with dad. During the high school, they're on campus. Now they have to get themselves up, get the class, blah, blah, blah. So apply for housing. And I'm proactive, so I made sure I had all those dates programmed into my calendar. In the fall, I went on the university's website. I looked at the first day that the housing application opens for the fall of 2021. You want to look for the first day for the semester that you or your child is enrolling into. You know, like if April 1st was for the first day of applications for the fall. Well, I didn't want to apply in the fall of 2020, trying to get her ready for the fall of 2021. First of all, the university didn't allow us to, but you always make sure that you pay attention to the dates, because there's always some type of registration going on at a university. Fall, you got spring registration. Spring, you have summer and fall registration. You pay attention to the dates. So apply for housing. You now have what they call regular dorms, where that's what when I went off to college, I lived in a regular dorm. You know, that's you have going to the dorm, have a roommate, whatever. Now they have what's called living learning communities, and living learning communities have somebody tested it, got a PhD on it, I'm sure, but these are where incoming students are all that declare the same major, all are put together in a dorm, and they're freshman level classes they take together, they study together, they go to different major specific events together. They have professors in that major who are their advisors along with their regular advisors and things of that nature. And the living learning communities, or LLCs for short, have been it's been proven that the kids that go through the living learning communities actually do better their freshman year, and they really go on to complete their degrees. My apologies. And when you apply for your dorm, for those campuses that have the living learning communities, that will be one of the options. They'll ask you, would you like to live in a living learning community? You'll click the yes box or the no box if you don't, and then the list of the majors that have living learning communities will come up, and if your major is on that list, you just check that box. You can't just move into a living learning community. You can only live in a living learning community that applies to your major, and not every major has a living learning community in the dorms. You just have to see at your school, and if they do, go for it. It can only help you out. Make sure you pay your deposit when you apply for your dorm. Just because you applied, if you don't pay your deposit, your application is not complete. And then you pick your roommates. Once again, if you're living in an LLC, your roommates will be chosen for you because y'all are all in the same major. But if you're in a regular dorm, a lot of times people will find out, they'll go on social media or whatever. They'll find some people that went to school with them, and they'll find out they're going to the same college, university, and they'll want to live together in the dorms. And you can choose that on the applications. You just have to make sure that you put each other's names down as potential roommates, because it doesn't mean that just because you put the name on there, you're going to automatically become roommates. That's not how that works. They try to accommodate your requests, but it just depends, because the applications are filled, dorm rooms are filled on first come, first serve, who's paid their dorm deposit and things like that. So you can try it, and a lot of times it does happen. It's very seldom that you'll see a dorm application where you got two or three girls, depending on how large the dorm room is. I think they go from anywhere from 2 to 4, and if they all put each other's names on the application as potential roommates, I find it hard for the application people to say no, they can't live together. So if you know that you and a couple of the girls or 3 other girls want a room together, put your names down, and probably 9 times out of 10 you'll get it. The only reason it wouldn't is, once again, the dorm is filled up, there's no more space, or one of them has chosen to opted to live into a living learning community, and you guys you and your other friends have not. It's just, there are just extenuating circumstances as to why all of you would not get into the same dorm room together. Then complete freshman orientation. Freshman orientation now is either live or virtual. Excuse me. Yeah, live or virtual. When I say live, I mean on campus, in front of people, reality. And then you have virtual. We did virtual for my daughter because with her, the university she's going to, I would not have been able to attend with her if she went up on the campus and did the orientation, and I had a problem with that. And so we did the virtual orientation. So make sure that you complete freshman orientation. Sometimes you'll register for classes and meet your advisors and all of that stuff during the end. Sometimes you'll be told to take your Alex test during that time. So make sure that you attend freshman orientation. If you go to the live on campus one, you'll get to walk around, see the buildings, see the dorms, see the dining halls, have fun. They normally have events and things planned. COVID kind of killed some things. So, there's not much going on with the on-campus events like there used to be in the past, but that's fine. This is the new normal. It's fine. We will adapt and we will move on. But the virtual one, it was interesting. Some things were live, some things were YouTube videos. I would have much preferred to go to the live one, but as I said, if I could not accompany my daughter on the campus, she wasn't going, and I couldn't go, so she didn't go. Just because our kids graduate high school and turn 18, they legally are grown. But I have a YouTube video, and we'll talk about that later, where I tell people our kids are 17, they turn 18. It doesn't necessarily mean they're grown. There are very few kids who are mature enough to be on their own and do their own thing at 18. Our kids still need our guidance. They still need our help. Just because they turned 18, they 18, they out my house. No, my baby will still be able to come home, do her laundry, come home when she wants to. Mom come see her, send her care packages. That is my child, and I'm going to support her the 4 whatever years of college, however many degrees she chooses to earn, just like I did the 14 years she went from pre-K to senior. So that I'm gonna come off of that soapbox. So do your freshman orientation. Also, register for your classes. And let's talk about registering for classes. When you get ready to register for your classes, the schools are going to send you a link. They're going to show you, they're going to tell you, hey, go here, register your class. Like with UTD, we had to do a schedule planner, make sure the courses were not conflicting with each other with times and days. And then you import them into the registration center and then you enroll. One thing that you want to make sure is that you pull up the campus map for the university or college that you're going to, because you want to make sure that your courses correlate to each other as to where they are on campus. You don't want to go over here taking math and then have to run all the way to the other side of the campus to take English, and you only have 10-15 minutes to get there, and then you got to go to the north side of the campus to do your lab, and then you got to come all the way, run 10 minutes 15 minutes south campus to go to some other class. Look at the map and look at the course. All the courses are going to tell you what building the class is being held in and where the room is. All you need is the code for the building. If you blow up or zoom in enough on the campus map, or if it's a printed map, it'll have the codes on there, and they're like be numbered. Building might be number 1, and it may say that's the administrative building or whatever. Look and see where those classes are being held, and schedule them accordingly. You don't want to be over here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then at 9 o'clock, 8:50 you're in one class, and then 9 o'clock you got to be way on the other side of the campus. That's a lot of running, and that it just gets annoying. Been there, done that. It took me 1 semester of that. No. So before you schedule your classes, find the classes that you want, and then pull up the university or college's campus map and look at the buildings and make sure that your classes are scheduled to where you may have to just go from one building and come out and go across to the next building. Something like that. And so then make sure, parents, that you sign the FERPA waiver. That means if anything happens on campus with your child as far as grades and talking to advisors and administrators and things like that, that your child is giving you permission to do that. And you have to sign it. Your child has to sign it. Sometimes they have what's called a dependent form. And that means if you filed your child on your latest taxes, you just have to get the first page that shows them on your taxes, fill out the form, upload that to their student account, or sometimes they'll have you send it either via fax, email, or snail mail, regular mail, and they'll put it and attach it to their child's account. So if anything happens, you'll be able to call up there and ask questions. Without that form, you can't do that. Your child is 18. They don't have to deal with you. Power of attorneys. I have a whole YouTube video on this. I will get to my YouTube page, but make sure that you complete a power of attorney, both medical and financial, for your child when they go off to college. Remember, your child is 18, and on the college campus at 18, if anything happens to them, they don't have to call you. Legally, they are grown. They are adult. And so make sure that you fill out a power of attorney, medical and financial. So if they have a bank account and something happens to them, you can have, help them out with their money until they're able to do so themselves. Or if something happens to them on campus, the school doesn't call you, hospital doesn't have to call you if they have to be taken to the hospital. Now, sometimes they will because it's the right thing to do, but you still want to have that medical power of attorney. So if something happens and there needs to be some medical decisions made, that is your child. You can make those. You don't want your child's roommate or some stranger or some surgeon making that decision by themselves. You want them to be able to call you, give you the rundown of what's going on, and help, and allow you to make a decision if need be. So make sure you have a medical and financial power of attorney. You can find those online if you know somebody that does them, or an attorney that does them. You can find them, but like, what is it, the Legal Zoom and all those type of websites, they have the power of attorney forms. You just have to fill them off, fill them in, pay for them, print them off, get them notarized. Or sometimes I think they may notarize, some other people may notarize them or whatever. But make sure you get the power of attorney and sign the FERPA form, or they may call it a FERPA waiver. And then that dependency form, if the dependency form is available, sign that as well. That's the one that says, hey, I filed my child on my taxes. So as long as I'm paying taxes and I filed them on my taxes, I should be able to know what's going on with them on campus. You'll find those forms on the university's registration part of their website, or you can just, once again, put in the search box like FERPA waiver form or dependency form, because all of those forms will pretty much be listed just up, top each other on one page, like on the registrar's section of the university's website. So you just scroll down and find which one you need, print it off, or fill it in and print it off, sign it, whatever. Do that. It is very important. And then if your child or you took any AP courses or dual credit courses, you need to make sure that the dual credit transcripts are sent to the university. So especially if you're taking a class that's a core class, like English, history, those type of things, and you pass that dual credit class, now you have that college credit. That means that college credit should be transferable to the school that you're going to. So you want to make sure that transcript is sent to that school, so you will already get that credit and you don't have to retake that class. So if you've taken a dual credit or dual enrollment class, or your child has taken one of those classes, make sure those transcripts, when they become available at that university or college, that those transcripts are also sent to the college or university that your child is going to, so they can get that college credit and they transfer those credits and they don't have to retake those classes. If they took the advanced placement or AP test, took an AP class and took the AP test and got a high enough score to where they earned college credit, make sure those AP scores are sent as well. And then some people have to do work study, or are you going to have to work, to pay part of your tuition? Are you going to work on campus? Are you going to work off campus? What are you going to do there? Those are things that you have to discuss when you're talking about going off to college. Are you going to work on campus to have money? Are you going to work off campus to have money? Or are you going to work because you need to help pay tuition? Things of that nature. So are you going to work on campus? You're going to do work study? You're going to work off campus? Those, think about that. And if you need to do that, get with the college's bursar department. That's where the financial aid and all of that is paid, and they'll help you. If you don't know how to do that, contact them. They'll talk to you about what they have available, or they'll give you a link to the website and help you go through it and walk you through it and things of that nature. So think about work study and working. And then the elephant in the room that everybody may or may not have a problem with is being vaccinated for COVID. You have to have the meningitis vaccination. I don't care what college or university you go to, because meningitis is really rampant on college campuses. And so you have to have a meningitis vaccine. Most often you would have taken that your junior or senior year in high school, and then you just have to take that, when you got it and they filled out the form, or they gave you a printout copy, you just take that printout copy and upload it to your student account. I think sometimes they have to have a certain date. They cannot not have been taken before a certain date, but you have to have a meningitis vaccine to go to campus and live on campus and go to school, to go to college, because once again, for whatever reason, meningitis is rampant on college campuses all over the nation. But once again, we're in a pandemic, so COVID is now a big issue on campuses. And so for my daughter's school, the vaccine was not required, but if you did not have it, there were certain restrictions that she was going to have to adhere to once she got to school. So because of that, I didn't want her to have to not be able to do some things because she was not vaccinated. So we chose to get vaccinated. If my daughter gets vaccinated, I get vaccinated. So she will have gotten vaccinated by the time she goes off to college, and we just have to upload. Some colleges have a website where you go in and you upload your COVID vaccine cards that have your date and all that stuff on it, your name and everything, and it shows the dates that, if you did is it Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson? I think it's Johnson & Johnson. It's only the one shot. Whatever, either one shot, one card or two cards, you'll be able to upload them to show that you have completed your vaccination. So think about that. I mean, I know, people are, tripping COVID doesn't exist and all that type of things, say that to somebody who hasn't, you know, lost a family member. I've lost family members to COVID. I've had family members who have had irreparable damage because of COVID. So COVID exists. And I don't want to get sick. I don't want my daughter to get sick. I don't want my husband to get sick. So we chose to get vaccinated. That's my family's choice. It may not be yours, but I tell you what, you go on a campus and you choose not to get vaccinated, you're potentially putting other people at harm because you may be walking around asymptomatic and passing the virus and don't even know it. Or your child is walking around asymptomatic, because if you don't know, you need to know that kids are now getting COVID at in very large numbers, and they're starting to die. It's not just the older people that are, adults that are getting COVID now. Kids are getting COVID and dying. Why aren't they saying anything about it? Because they're not going to shut the country back down. They're not going to shut these states and cities and schools back down. They did that for a year and lost a bunch of money. So no, they're not going to do that anymore. Now that the vaccine is out, parents, you choose to get your kids vaccinated, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. But if you choose not to, these are things that you're going to have to deal with. So just think about it. I did not, I mean, even when I had, the issue, I had family members that had COVID. I never got it, but I was more concerned about the efficacy rate of the vaccines. Now they're at high enough efficacy rates that I'm comfortable with them. And like I said, if I want my daughter to be able to enjoy college, I need her to be able to, hang around and be with friends and go to class and things like that. Those were the reasons that I chose to get vaccinated. Your reasons, whether you're for it or against it, is up to you. But just make sure that you understand that you choosing not to vaccinate yourself or your child is potentially putting others at harm. It's okay for you to do what you do with yourself inside of your home, in your home or whatever. But when you go outside around other people, you are subjecting other people to your decisions. And for some, that could be life threatening, you know. So that's all I have for today. We'll go back over these things. When you're preparing to go off to college, make sure that you graduate high school, do the aptitude test, college entrance exams, order your final high school transcripts. Oh, apply for financial aid. Make sure that you have applied for FAFSA. FAFSA opens up every fall on August 1st. Every year, like clockwork, FAFSA application opens up on October 1st. Make sure that you go in and apply for financial aid, because financial aid is first come, first serve. And when they run out of money, it's gone. So apply for financial aid October 1st every year that you're in college. And then complete your college entrance exams, SAT if they're required. In Texas, you have to take the TSI. If there are any major specific tests that you have to take, do those. Some projects that you may have to complete and submit as part of your application, do those and get them in. Apply for housing, whether it's regular dorm or a living learning community. Pay your housing deposit. Add your roommates if you can. Complete freshman orientation, whether it's live or on campus. Let's say on campus or virtual. Register for your classes. Make sure when you register for your classes that you know what classes you're supposed to take. You get with your advisor. Y'all sit down, y'all talk, map out your classes, pull up the campus map, see where those buildings are. Make sure you know that you're not running all over campus from one class to the next. Get the FERPA waiver done. Uh, my apologies. I have no idea why my ringer is on my phone. FERPA waiver, mom and dad, to be able to, if anything happens academically with your child on campus, you can call and ask questions. Power of attorneys, medical and financial. Once again, if anything happens while your child is on campus or going to college, you'll be able to help and everything. Dependency form. If you filed your child on your last taxes, get the first sheet, fill out that form, attach that sheet to it and send it to the campus. Make sure that they understand my child is there, but my child is not there alone. And then, are you going to work? Are you going to work off campus or do work study on campus? Maybe you just want to try to earn some extra money, or you need to help supplement your tuition. That's something else to think about. And then getting vaccinated. You have to have your meningitis vaccine. There's not a college I've seen yet that has not required a meningitis vaccine. My daughter was accepted to 17 colleges, and they all are sending emails. If you're coming to us, make sure you have submitted your meningitis vaccine proof. So make sure you've had your meningitis vaccine, or your child has had their meningitis vaccination and COVID vaccine. If you're going to get it, get it. Some campuses are requiring it, and you can't get mad if your child goes to a campus or you go to a campus and they're telling you if you want to come to this school, you are required to take the COVID vaccine, because that is their choice. You're either going to take the vaccine and go to that school or you're not, period. But for the schools that are not requiring it, if you're not going to get the vaccine, be prepared for the restrictions that you're going to have, period. You can't say, I don't want to get the vaccine, but I'm not going to go to campus and do this and this and this and this. They don't have to let you on that campus. Don't start that. You're either going to take the vaccine or you're not. But whichever way you go, know that there are, if you take the vaccine, there are some things that you don't have to do. If you don't get the vaccine, there are some restrictions that you have to adhere to, period. So that is all for today. You guys notice I've decided to do my presentations in the mornings because there were so many already doing them in the evenings, and that's fine. Remember, I'm transitioning over from Zoom. So for the ones that have been doing their Facebook Lives and consistently and have been for this long, I'm not trying to come in and invade their spaces. I'm taking over a space that nobody wanted, which are normally the morning hours. And I've actually liked the morning hours, so this will be good. I will see you all next week. I do not remember what my topic is. Once again, it's morning time. But I am done with the basketball topics for right now. I have transitioned into talking about college things. So whatever my topic is for next week, it's going to be something college related. So with that, I will say good morning. Have a great rest of your day. And I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.